between India and the other destinations where there is a fairly heavy demand for traffic. Some of these air bubbles, we have completed the negotiations. In the case of other air bubbles, we are at an advanced stage. Why do we need to establish air bubbles? Well, ideally, if, and I've been stressing this in every interaction with you, all these arrangements depend in the ultimate analysis on the behavior of the virus. If the virus was suddenly to atrophy or to dissipate and we have normal operating environment, we would just open it up to normal traffic. But even domestically, as you are seeing, we opened up, I think on 25th May, and we are at 33%. We want to do more, but many of our cities are going into additional restrictions. Some lockdowns are taking place. So we have to navigate through a difficult terrain which is affected by the virus. And this is also the case with other places, other cities in the world where we normally fly to. So I will give you an introduction and I will tell you where we are on the air bubbles. Till international civil aviation can reclaim its pre-COVID situation in terms of numbers, I think the answer will lie through these bilateral air bubbles, which will carry as many people maybe as possible, but under defined conditions. Because many countries are still imposing entry restrictions, as are we. It's not that anyone can travel from anywhere to anywhere. You need permission. In the case of some countries, even if you have a visa, a valid visa, even if you have a valid stay permit, you would still be required to obtain an additional clearance. Now, till those restrictions are in place, I think air bubbles is the answer to going forward. There is no starting and completing date. No negotiations go on because then you keep refining. As I said, we are at a very advanced stage of negotiation with at least 3 countries that I'm aware of. And in the case of one, we have signed formally. Let me tell you, Air France will be operating 28 flights on the Delhi, Mumbai and Bangalore sector and France, I think Paris, between 18th July to 1st August. Then in another case with the United States, we have an agreement for United to operate 18 flights between India and the US between 17 and 31st. But this is an interim one. It is an interim one. They are flying, I think, daily between Delhi and Newark, and I think thrice a week between Delhi and San Francisco. Air India's flights to the US have already been, I think, indicated by Rajiv. So this is work in progress. We have a request from the Germans also. I think Lufthansa is almost done. But as I said, you know, we have agreement. Some details have to be worked out. But I think there's a question from Palome here.
So could you just repeat the details?
Yeah. Look, whatever I'm saying will be made available online, which we'll upload it. But I said Air France, as part of the agreement that we've reached, Air France will be flying 28 flights between Delhi, Mumbai and Bangalore and Paris, I presume, between 18th July and 1st August. This is Air France. Okay? Air India's flights already, I don't know how many you have. How many flights to Paris? You're working that out?
As per our earlier schedule, we had a daily flight.
Earlier schedule, they had 1 flight a day. So it's say between 18th August and 1st August, if that remains, then you have 13, 14 flights. But you know, these are all mutually, this is subject to dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And the US, I also mentioned 18 flights between 17th and 31st that Delta will be flying. But you know, when we work out air bubbles, we are quite happy for other airlines to join in. The whole purpose of a bubble is to allow carriers designated and agreed to between the countries also to join in. Now, in our case, for instance, if tomorrow, I mean, we have some indication our private carriers want to also do long haul. If they acquire wide-bodied aircraft, we would welcome that. The whole idea of a bubble is that you are at a stage short of normal civil aviation operation. Like normal civil aviation operations, as I keep repeating, will depend on the behavior of the virus. It depends on how many of your own cities are willing to take what number of aircraft. It also depends on demand and supply. So initially the bubbles, for instance, the India-UK, we are running 2 flights a day between Delhi and London. And I had discussions with my counterpart in the British government. This is me wearing a Commerce Ministry turban. So I said, if British Air Carrier wants to fly on the London-Delhi sector, we'd be open to the idea. But we need a request. Similarly, we have requests from the Americans. As I mentioned, they are flying 18 flights between 17th and 31st. We have a request from the Germans, which we are processing. We've already agreed to the arrangement with the French. So as I said, these also are in a somewhat initial experimental stage. You see, we are operating under fairly strict SOPs which are determined by the Ministry of Home Affairs along with our health authorities. These SOPs entail that we need the permission of the receiving state. Now, in the last few days, we had 1 or 2 examples which we had to take a very tough stand on, where the carrier arrived as part of an arrangement in a city where they didn't have prior clearance. So yesterday I requested Arun, the Director General of Civil Aviation, to call that airline in and make it absolutely clear that unless, so see, we use formulations like subject to, compliance with provision. Now, if you don't want to interpret and say, all right, I do it and it'll be subject, no. We said you must have the clearance of the embassy and you must have the clearance of the receiving state. Once you have both the clearances, you can fly. And total number of flights, as I said, those can be worked out on the basis of equity and, reach, depending on demand, etc. I have some statistics here where some airlines wanted a large number of flights, but when it came down to actual operation, the number they could use was less. Now, all these are at an initial stages. The arrangement we have with some of these Middle East carriers, countries also, is for an initial phase of 2 weeks. We will see how the operations are conducted, and based on that, I mean, we are barely 3 days since the start of the operation in the case of the UAE. I think we started on the 12th. So I think 1 week after, around the 18th, 19th, 20th or so, I will request our colleagues here along with DGCA to review the arrangement and see when we going forward how much of an extension, what period. Also depends, as I said, on the demand that there is. On some sectors, as I tell you, confident कि जिस तरीके से डोमेस्टिक सिविल एविएशन बढ़ रही है और हम ये एयर बबल्स कर पा रहे हैं, वी आर बीइंग एबल टू नेगोशिएट दैट. आई थिंक, आई मीन, नाउ वी हैव मेनी डिमांड्स फॉर एयर बबल्स. बट वी नीड टू बी केयरफुल. हम उतने ही करें जितनी हमारे पास कैपेसिटी हो. हमारा जो हेल्थ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, फॉर इंस्टेंस द नंबर ऑफ क्वारंटीन फैसिलिटीज, अभी एक सारी हमारी स्टेट्स में 1 हफ्ते की मैंडेटरी क्वारंटीन है, तो वी मस्ट हैव फैसिलिटीज फॉर दैट. अभी तक तो है, बट मान लीजिए अगर कल आप इस नंबर को एकदम बढ़ाते हैं तो स्लोली ये जो बढ़ता जा रहा है, एंड देन वी विल बिकम, पहले 2 हफ्ते का था क्वारंटीन, अब ये एक हफ्ता मैंडेटरी और 1 हफ्ता आप सेल्फ क्वारंटीन आप घर में करिए, सेल्फ मॉनिटरिंग करिए. मेक्स इट इजियर. सो एज वी प्रोसीड, आई थिंक विल बी एबल टू फाइंड आउट, बट आई विल रिक्वेस्ट सेक्रेटरी टू गिव यू सम ऑपरेशनल इंसाइट्स.
आपने पूछा कि ये बबल की बात हुई है, ये बबल क्या चीज़ है? ये बबल कुछ नहीं है, इट्स अ सिस्टम, इट्स अ मैकेनिज्म. बबल कब बनता है, उसकी कुछ प्री कंडीशंस हैं. प्री कंडीशंस ये होंगी, जैसे भारत हुआ, अमेरिका हुआ. भारत से अमेरिका जाने के लिए लोग तैयार होने चाहिए, ये डिमांड होनी चाहिए. उसी तरह से अमेरिका से भी यहाँ लोग आने के लिए तैयार होने चाहिए. ये एक पहली प्री कंडीशन है. दूसरी प्री कंडीशन है कि हमारे कानून में वहां से लोगों को आने की अनुमति होनी चाहिए. अमेरिकी कानून में यहां से वहां जाने के लोगों के लिए अनुमति होनी चाहिए. ये दूसरी प्री कंडीशन है. और तीसरी क्या है, जब ये सब मिल जाता है, देन द एयरलाइंस हैव टू कम फॉरवर्ड एंड एग्री टू ऑपरेट द फ्लाइट्स. इन तीन चीजों के होते हुए एयर बबल बनता है. सो इट इज नॉट अ फ्री मूवमेंट, इट इज अ रेगुलेटेड मूवमेंट. इसलिए इसको हमने एक बबल कहा है कि बबल के अंदर चलिएगा, आप बाहर नहीं जा सकते. तो बबल जो कह रहे हैं, मतलब इट इज अ सेट ऑफ रेगुलेशंस अंडर विच द 2 कैरियर्स ऑफ द 2 कंट्रीज, वो भी चलेंगे, उनके कैरियर भी चलेंगे, हमारे भी चलेंगे, और लोगों को लेके जाएंगे, बट इट विल नॉट बी टोटली फ्री मूवमेंट, देयर विल बी रेस्ट्रिक्शंस। जैसे आपने कहा कि स्टेट्स की सहमति काफ़ी आवश्यक है। जैसे आप देख रहे हैं अलग अलग स्टेट्स में लिमिटेशन होती है, स्टेट्स को पूरी क्वारंटाइन के बंदोबस्त करना है, उनको देखना पड़ता है। तो स्टेट्स बोलती हैं कि भाई हवाई जहाज चलने से 24 घंटे पहले हमको इतला की जाए कि कितने लोग आ रहे हैं, तो उनकी वो परमिशन लेते हैं, वो इतला करते हैं, फिर हवाई जहाज यहाँ पे आता है तो स्टेट्स को क्वारंटाइन करती है। सो दिस इज हाउ द बबल सिस्टम इज वर्किंग।
Just wait, I think you will be.